Hi, everybody. Welcome to the KaitenCast. This is episode 3, and today I am joined with Charburst, I think is how you correctly pronounce that. I don't know why it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah, sure thing. Well, as you heard, I'm Charburst. My real name is Mariel, but everyone calls me Char or Charburst online. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on.
Oh yeah, of course. I don't want to seem like I'm inapproachable, I guess, because of I guess, well, it's weird to say following,
Yeah.
but
Well,
that's what intimidates people sometimes.
it's just one of those things where I mean, fact of the matter is you do have a bigger following than I do, and it was kind of a shot in the dark because I don't think I ever directly spoke to you until I reached out.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It was a surprise to me too.
Yeah, but I've been following your stuff for a while. I mean, I've replied to some tweets and stuff, but I mean, how, without directly talking to you, you wouldn't have probably remembered who I was specifically. So you're a 2D artist for a VR game.
I am. I am a
Yeah.
2D artist and concept artist. Yeah.
Okay, is your final art what is put in? Because you're a 2D artist, but the game is 3D.
Yeah. So for the game's called Tablecraft. For those who don't know, and how the pipeline works, we're still trying to figure out how to run it smoothly. But for now, it's sort of like because there's also a 3D artist. So what happens is I draw out the concept work for say an item that's going to be in the game, right?
Hmm.
And then I pass it on to my coworker, who is a 3D artist, and he models it. And we're trying to figure out right now if I'm going to be the one painting, like coloring the model. There's still a lot of things we're figuring out, but that's pretty much how it works for us.
Okay, because from what I saw, it looks the items in the game or like the things you get to interact with looked like the art that you did, and I was really confused how that worked.
Oh yeah, we're like doing a whole. I wouldn't say like maybe a huge makeover of the entire game, but we're like adjusting the art style.
Was that just a project that like someone you knew started?
Oh no, actually, I found the job listing on a like a gaming Discord that posts like for people who want to get into the industry, and that's where I found it.
Okay, because I mean, as the theme of my channel is, I've had a lot of I've been part of a lot of failed projects, and one of which, and I mean this one was like a really long time ago. One of which was I was there was a group of guys who were trying to make a video game. It never like really got off the ground, but I remember like they had some connections and like even like went up to like Microsoft and stuff to talk to them about it, and I was a concept
Oh
artist for
wow.
them, and like I just remember being like, I don't understand how this process is supposed to work. I just draw it and then it just gets put in. I don't I don't know why that was so like otherworldly to me.
Yeah, it is pretty new when you get into it in the first time. You don't realize a lot of the factors that get into game making.
Would you recommend people kind of do what you did and look into job listings for this kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I got super lucky, and I'm like really honored to. I've even gotten the job in the first place because I haven't had since this job I haven't had any professional studio experience
Hmm.
or any art related job other than freelance. Um, and yeah, like there's if you see any job listings out there that apply to you and work with you, you should absolutely try and apply because like the worst that can happen is that they don't get back to you. And I applied to a lot of places before I got to this job, so yeah, give it a shot, I'd
Oh,
say.
okay. Would you say that utilizing or no, I worded that wrong. Well, okay, hang on, let me start over. Would you say that actively seeking work was helped you more with pursuing art than like utilizing social media, or do you think there's like a balance or
That's a good question. I think that there is a good balance you have to have when you want to try to find a job for what you're seeking. Because the Discord, the whole thing I had with Twitter was basically me making connections and making friends, and they're amazing people. But at the same time, I was going out on looking at the Discord maybe every few days to see if there's any new job postings, and then if they applied to me, I would apply to the job. But I guess notoriety is pretty helpful, but I don't think it's like a necessity, if that makes sense.
do you do art full time?
I do, yeah. I go
Okay.
to a art college in Chicago.
Okay. Well, that makes sense too. Just because I think it was yesterday actually. An old friend reached out to me and contacted me about like how he's doing what like a white collar job. I assume it's full time, and he was asking
Mhm.
how to balance pursuing creative ambitions and making art, but while being able to function while having a job. And I didn't really have any like advice for him because it was like he was like, does it just take practice? And I was like, I don't know honestly, because as of right now, um, to pursue my current short term goal in selling art at conventions, I don't have a job right now.
Mhm.
That's the only way I could foreseeably kind of think of being able to put that much time into having a product that I'm happy with. And I don't know, would you agree with that, or like how did you do it?
I'd say, yeah, work-life balance is super important. For like a long time, it was for me. It was like because my goal was to work in video games. I had such a hard time trying to find balance in the sense of considering art as work or when to take breaks. Because there for a long time, I was whenever I would take a break or I'd play like games or whatever or something like that, I would be I would be like, I'm not drawing. I need to draw. I'm wasting my time. I need to do something. I need to develop my portfolio somehow. But taking breaks is important.
Mm-hmm.
And if you need to set aside time to, I mean, really, it's up to you how much time you want to dedicate to what you're pursuing. I mean, it totally makes sense to take like maybe a part-time job and work on it on whatever your ambitions are in the side. And it'll take longer, of course, but I guess it's more since you're earning money, it's a more safer route.
Did you ever have like a part-time job? Were you just, because you're in school right now, so were you just going to
Yeah,
school and working on art, or did you ever have a job while doing this as well, or did you just commit to just devoting your time to doing art and pursuing that?
there I had one job before this,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like the only like actual, I guess, quote unquote job I had. It was maybe I think last summer. I worked at the airport as a wheelchair pusher.
Oh, hey.
And it was part time. I wasn't really able to draw that much at
Yeah.
all because of so much all the work and staying late for waiting for flights and stuff. I did bring a small sketchbook, but it didn't really help. And when I quit the job just because school was starting up again, I found out that I didn't have a fun time because I didn't get to draw at all. And I wanted to draw. There were things I wanted to work on, but I couldn't because I was just too tired. So I decided to dedicate myself to pursuing, or not pursuing because that's what I've been doing. The airport job was two years ago, and then last summer I didn't have a job at all, and I just worked on artwork. And then now that I'm about to graduate, maybe next year I think, and I managed to find a job. Hopefully, trying to balance that as school goes on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I worked at I mean, I've had a lot of jobs, but there was a 2 year period where I was working at McDonald's, and I
Mm,
had no, because I was also going to school at the time, and because of that, I had no time to kind of sit down and draw. And I remember like the breaking point for me was I would do really fast drawings just to kind of keep my sanity, because I was like, I hated my job so much, and I was under a lot of stress, and I was kind of fooling myself into thinking that I was being fulfilled, because like I would do like a really bad drawing, but like I would still get likes on Facebook, so I was like, okay, this is worth it.
oh, okay. Yeah, I see
But
what you mean.
yeah, but the breaking point for me was there reached a point where 2 years had passed, and I thought about it, and I had accomplished absolutely nothing in those 2 years. Like, I mean,
Mm,
I was a little bit farther in my degree, but because I was so tired from work, I had to take less classes every quarter. So it was like what's really benefiting me. Of course, at the time I was trying to save money to move out, and I was like, I don't think this is worth it. And I mean, that's kind of I don't know. It's weird because like that's kind of where I'm at again, because I saved up. I finally saved up a bunch of money to move out, and then I did, and then I really didn't want to be a boomerang baby, but now I'm back with my parents, and that's not a bad thing. It's just at the time not what I wanted, and now I don't have a job, and a part of that is because of my hesitance to be unhappy again and my want to make art again. And I
yeah, there's always a little revelation. revelation. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I will say, because I was always really impressed how frequent you were able to make art. I think this is how I discovered your work. When I made my new Twitter, I went down a rabbit hole of artists. I think this was like right when you did the original 150 Pokemon in the old sprite art
Oh,
style.
yeah.
Was that just a side project? Because that was a huge commitment.
That was definitely a side thing. I didn't think that I would go through with it till the end, but I did, and it was worth it.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of hard work.
I was so impressed that like because I remember seeing Bulbasaur. I came across it when you were at Venusaur. You were at the very beginning, and I just remember
Mhm.
progressively seeing more and more, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna finish it. Lo and behold, like it looks great altogether, especially with kind of the border you put around it.
Thanks. Yeah.
I just remember because my favorite Pokemon of all time is Psyduck, and I remember waiting in anticipation for that one, and then just not seeing it when it happened, and
Oh
then
no.
I was like, wait, we're past that number, and then I had to like go back just so I could like it because I wanted to see it. Like, what drove you to do a project like that? Because it is as awesome as it is, and as cool as it is to see the final project. It is, or the final product rather. It is rather random and also like very time consuming.
Oh yeah, it was super. It was super spontaneous. Well, it was because back then, when I was way younger, I always wanted to draw like every single Pokemon out there, and that was the original intent for this project too, to draw literally every Pokemon sprite that is out as of now at least. But as you know, I got a job, and so I'm like, okay, I might as well just commit until like the first region's done. So that's what I did. But yeah, it pretty much stemmed from me along when I was like a little kid wanting to draw every single Pokemon out there.
That's really
Now that I
awesome.
had the time.
Because I've attempted
Yeah.
that. I've attempted that. I think twice now. One of them was just drawing them based off the old Sugimori art, and one other time before
Mhm.
that, I wanted to make just a giant collage, and I remember planning it out and mapping it, and then it got to a point where I was like, okay, because I this idea was really dumb in retrospect. At the time, I think we were on Gen 5, and I wanted to draw every single Pokemon, but I wanted them to all be to scale, and I wanted it to be like a scene.
Ooh.
I didn't just want it to be those pieces where they're all together and it's blank. So I was
Mhm.
like drawing like a haunted house for the ghost to be at and stuff. And I wanted this giant scene, but because I was drawing them to scale, it reached a point where like I zoomed out and like you couldn't make out what anything was because like some of them are so small, and I was like, okay, well, like
Yeah.
I can see Charizard because he's orange and in the sky, but now I don't know who anybody is. So this was a horrible idea.
I mean, in theory, it sounds really good in
If
theory.
if I was doing like a Michelangelo painting like on a giant ceiling, it would be awesome. But like for how I was doing it, I was like, I was like, it gets all compressed and like I don't know.
Yeah. That's quite the problem.
Do you have any advice for any aspiring digital or convention artist out there? Because you are a little bit different with my previous guests in the sense that like you do have a job in being an artist for a game, and you. Oh, I was gonna say this up top. I was gonna congratulations on the 2K following
Oh,
on Twitter, by
oh,
the way.
thanks. Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, no problem. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's weird that I'm like kind of pointing this out, but that is, kind of an aspect that kind of was different than my previous guest. And I don't know if that was luck or if that was like, like hard work pays off or anything like that.
It's definitely a balance of both. Like I want to start with the advice. I guess one things I definitely want to mention is that it's okay to be nervous or scared because the art industry is huge and unpredictable, and everyone knows all the stigmas and stereotypes that comes with being in a creative medium or working with a creative medium. And I just want to say that it's okay to be scared, but you shouldn't let that stop you from pursuing what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Way too many people give up because of doubt from family. And I come from a place where I did not think I would be working where I am right now. I'm very fortunate to be where I am, but it's definitely part luck and mostly hard work.
Here's a question that I was thinking about bringing up, and I'm going to, and I, it's kind of
Yeah, go for
random.
it.
So you're Filipino.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I am too. And
Oh, hell yeah.
yeah. Do you do you? Because for me, in all of my projects or all my future projects, I always try to like, I always want to incorporate something Filipino, just because with the amount of media I consumed, because I consumed a lot of media in my childhood, and I used to feel like I was abnormal because like my parents were different than like parents that I saw on TV or even my friends' parents. You know, the ethnic people in the video games or the comics and stuff that I read, Filipino was a little bit different because it wasn't like my mainland or Asian. But like it also, you know,
Yeah.
it's and also part of that is because I didn't grow up. I grew up almost predominantly with white people up until like the end of high school. Was that something? Is that something that you kind of relate to as well?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I was born here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when my parents immigrated, and when I was little, the neighborhood I grew up with was like a bunch of Polish people. They're super nice, but yeah, I also grew up with a bunch majority of white people.
Do you ever attempt to like kind of reflect your heritage in your art?
Yeah, actually, I've been. That's something that I want to do more
Mm-hmm.
because I love Filipino culture and I love talking about it and sharing it. So I kind of maybe when I have the time try to do more artwork centered around our culture and heritage. Like recently, I'm in a Filipino zine that's just
Oh,
where all the artists are Filipino.
that's awesome.
And yeah, and I also was recently in an Asian American zine where I did a piece based on Filipino snacks and candies that I had when I was younger.
That's awesome.
So I'm definitely trying. Yes, I'm definitely trying to dip my toes more into my culture and incorporating that into my artwork.
That's awesome. Have you ever? So you were born in the U.S. Have you ever been back there?
Yeah, I have actually. I used to go like once every other year when I was little,
Hey,
and then I
me
had to
too.
stop. Yeah, but I had to stop because high school commitments and college,
Yep.
and I just didn't have the like because like summer or during spring or whatever, and then I have like AP classes to try to met or AP tests, and then in college I can't afford to miss my classes,
Hmm.
so I haven't been able to lately. But last time I went to the Philippines was I think last August, last year maybe I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to go. I used to go every 2 years, every other year, up until the end of middle school. So during high school, I didn't go, and then there was a
Mhm.
full 10 year gap where I didn't go. And of course, in that time, my grandma stopped taking care of me because I was an adult by that time. So I went 2 years ago, I think, or maybe even longer ago than that, actually.
Mhm.
But no, it was 2 years. So I went back 2 years ago after not being there for a decade and not really being around like my grandparents. And I had no idea what anybody was saying. I completely lost my understanding of the Tagalog language altogether.
Yeah, I feel you there.
And I was like, oh, I'm kind of sad about that. I will say though, it's interesting because like I kind of wish it was more common for people to kind of understand like kind of what the Philippines is because I feel like, and you could agree, you could tell me if you agree or disagree with this. Like, I feel like a lot of the contradictions of being Asian American like come with being Filipino American, but also because it's like not the same. You know, it's like Islander and Spanish and stuff. It's like other like for example, like when I got like after I got older and I wasn't only surrounded by white people. Also, I'm gonna make a disclaimer. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being white. I'm saying that like just that's just who I grew up around. When I made other friends who also had like immigrant parents, I learned
Mhm.
pretty quickly that like more mainlander Asian descent people, like my friends' parents, didn't like Filipinos for
Really?
them. Yeah, they would refer to us as being like fake Mexican Asians and stuff like that. And
Ooh,
like
oof! I've
yeah.
never heard that.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so important to me. Also is cuz I feel like I've been in too many environments where I feel like I've just been looked down on because of what I am.
When I was younger, like I understand what you mean because I didn't experience that level of, I guess, animosity toward Filipinos, but I've definitely had like experiences when I was younger in middle school, having like I would bring baon from home. I'd bring like adobo and rice because my mom used to run a Filipino store slash restaurant. My classmates would give me weird looks from time to time. They're like, "Oh, what's?" Because they had like Lunchables or whatever, and I'd have here be my rice and ulam, and they're like, "What? Ooh, what's that? That's weird." Like, I just want to eat adobo, man. don't don't need to shame me.
I like pork adobo more than chicken, but my parents like basically 99% of the time will make chicken, and I'm always like, oh man, I want the other one. Do you identify yourself as Asian American, or does that not matter?
I've been thinking about that a lot because since I was born here, but my parents are both Filipino. For a while, I've considered myself Asian American because I grew up in America.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to consider myself as like at least mostly Filipino.
When I was a teenager, I was really about the Asian pride because I was like, well, if people are already going to judge me for being a different skin color, they should know what I am instead of it being ambiguous.
Yeah.
Because I am pretty ambiguous actually. I think nowadays in my adulthood, without if people don't know, a lot of people think I'm like Indian or some sort of Muslim or something. Um, and
Huh.
The reason I identified as Asian American in adulthood is because a lot of people I resonated with usually were Asian with immigrant parents, like second generation immigrant. So,
Hmm.
but in 2020, the U.S. government is reclassifying us as Pacific Islander instead of Southeast Asian, which has been a debate my entire life.
Huh.
Because people
I
always,
didn't hear about that.
yeah, people always ask me and try to, classifying is very important, and they want to know, like, is this Pacific Islander? Is this Asian? Is this Spanish? And
Yeah.
we were technically Southeast Asian because if you look up a map of the Pacific Islands, the Philippines isn't part of it. But starting next year, we will be. And I think it's weird that like our ethnicity can change classifications like in the middle of our life.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I mean, because like I'm sure you've probably encountered it at least, or anyone Filipino, when you're like in high school and filling out like a standardized test or whatever, and they
Mm-hmm.
tell you to bubble in your ethnicity, and there's Asian and also Pacific Islander,
Yes.
and you're like, well, I do not know what to bubble in. I
I,
usually go with Asian, but
yeah, well, the reason I do is because you know how a lot of times there's fine print in parentheses.
hmm
Whenever there is parentheses, Philippine Islands is always under Asian, so that's just why I always chose that one. I guess I have to not do that starting next year.
yeah, I guess I also have to not do that.
Yeah, it's super bizarre. This
So
this
weird.
is super not an art thing, and I'm sorry we spent so much time talking about this, but
No, it's interesting.
yeah, and like I don't know,
I had no idea.
it's pretty unique because I feel like most people from most countries will not have that experience of legally being reclassified, and I don't know, it's kind of bizarre.
It is kind of weird. Like, is there what even is the reason for it? Do you think is it just to make it easier, or
um,
like
I
why?
I have absolutely no idea if I'm being completely honest. I don't know the why. I just know that it is, and I know that the misconception of Pacific Islander to Southeast Asian has always been like a big one, and I think the biggest thing is probably that like the culture is more Islander. It's close. I think it's. This is my guess. I think it's because the culture, specifically like the culture before Spanish colonization, if you look back at like like the
hmm
tattoos and the deities and stuff, it's like
Yeah,
it's way more Polynesian than like Asian if you were to compare. And
I see what you mean.
that's my guess. I'm sure there's like a real legal reason that is probably dumb, but yeah. Are there any aspects of your story, quote unquote, of like kind of where you are now that you might want other aspiring people to know?
Oh man, there's so much I could tell.
We'll go for
Well,
it.
because it was like because when I was younger. Well, I always liked to draw ever since I was younger. I was kind of like one of those art kids in class,
Hmm.
when your teacher like makes an art project and it's a group project, everyone in class stares at you because they want to.
Oh yeah.
They want to join up with you because you know how you do a good job.
There was a project in my English class when I was sophomore in high school where one of the options was to make a comic, and that I'm almost positive that that option was exclusively because of me, because that teacher talked about me as an example in all of his periods, not just the one I was in.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, I
Hell
know.
yeah.
So I was the same. I was always drawing in school, even when I was a little kid in class.
It was just like when I would keep drawing, and it was my style was very anime. I like to copy pictures a lot.
Hmm.
And then there was like a point where I wanted to be like, oh, when I grow up, I want to move to Japan and become a mangaka and
Oh,
work on manga all day,
hell yeah,
you
that's
know.
the dream.
But high school came around, and they were already like telling us like you should think about what you want to do. At that time, I wasn't sure because even though I knew I was never saw my a person who would be able to make any kind of income at my current skill level, especially when I saw, because I had a DeviantArt account at the time, and I saw like all these amazing artworks. I'm like, oh man, how can I compete with that? But it was maybe I think my second semester freshman year of high school where I discovered that commissions were a thing, and I decided to like take a shot in the dark. I was like, I'll maybe make some prices and then put it out for everyone to see. The worst that could happen is that no one wants anything. So I made like a journal and I posted it, and I priced my like a full body piece for like 5 DeviantArt points, which is like 5 cents if you convert it to US dollars. I think maybe a week or so later, someone actually sent me like a note or DM'd me or whatever it's called now in DeviantArt because I don't use it anymore. And they told me that they wanted to commission me for something, and I was super like ecstatic. And they were a really nice person, and we exchanged. And I got the commission done, and they loved it. And it was that was kind of my revelation, like my point where I realized where it was, if someone was willing to buy artwork from me at where I am right now, who knows where I'll be if I continue to hone my more and practice more, 5-10 years from now. And then like since then I've been like taking all the art classes. This is in like junior senior years when I decided to go into art college. And now like I don't know how many 6 years or so, 4 5. I'm bad with years, but like 5 years later or so, like where I am now. In a place where I didn't think I would ever be. If I had to say anything about it, just say work hard, work really really hard. Keep applying to places, keep trying, never stop trying. But take breaks. Breaks are important.
Yes, breaks are important. That's awesome.
They're very important.
That's super cool, and like I'm really glad that like because what it sounds like is you got that motivation, and you just ran with it, and I think that's honestly like super inspiring to me. And a few questions is for me is like, did you always feel like you had support in your goals, like from your peers or your family?
For my peers, definitely. My friends were incredibly supportive of me. I'm very, very thankful for them. Some of them even bought some of my stuff when I was younger for like $5 or so. That was a big deal. They were just at the same time I got a Twitter, and then I made friends online, and they were super supportive. So that very much helped. And then for my family was kind of, I'd say 50-50.
Yeah.
Because of course they're worried about job security and all that. Like my dad was super supportful. He was like, as long as you graduate from college and you work hard, then you go for whatever, and I'll support you, which is I'm very thankful for him. And my mom was like semi-supportive because she was still worried. But she came around eventually. Now she does, at least.
That's really because I think people do know this in theory, but like getting support and like being supportive to other people is so important. In my experience, people never talk about the effects of it like being the other way. For example, I had a friend who when they were younger wanted to get into acting, and because they had a bad experience with a drama teacher in school who didn't like them, that ambition kind of just faded away. And like kind of with me too, like with me, the first time I started doing commissions, so I had a friend, someone who, cause I usually pinpoint this person as like a pretty important part of my life and kind of the catalyst of why I made this podcast.
Right.
I feel like he was actually threatened by me. I guess the kids these days would call the behavior toxic. To compare to like
Yeah.
yeah, to compare to your story, when I first started doing commissions, he was like pissed off at me and would get mad that like I was making money off that when like he was unhappy with his job, which I never understood why those two had to be connected. And
It's correlated. Yeah, that's weird.
yeah, and I remember like that, and because I didn't have a lot of friends at the time, and so it kind of was just like I don't know, a lot of friends I had were I just had because they had been friends with me for so long, and because of this, it was like it was hard to get out of my own head that like I already kind of felt like my family didn't super support doing something creative, and when I made my first checkpoint of progress, like I was like, whoa, I actually made a little bit of money off of drawing something. That's like the first major step in what I want to do ultimately. I got like like a uh negative feedback from that. I couldn't think of a better term for it, and I
No, that's fine.
and I feel like this is a good example of like with you getting your first commission and being like, whoa, if someone bought something from me at this level, who knows what I could do, and then following that, and then for me, the same thing happened, and then I was shamed for it, and then I felt like I had to take a step back and reevaluate if it was even worth doing. I don't know. I just think these kinds of things are kind of important to point out because there was no one around to kind of tell me that these things were okay. All my support when I was young was exclusively from myself. I was like, I'm going to overcome my parents' naysaying on my own, and
Oh my god. Oh my god. Yes. Like I completely understand where you're coming from because when like at the time when I was younger and like still starting out and when I told my mom I was like, oh, I want to become an artist, and she was like, are you sure? There's like I do commissions for my friends, and there was like one point where my friend commissioned me to draw something, and my mom saw me working on it at home, and she was like, oh, what's that for? And then I'm like, oh, my friend paid me to draw this for them. And instead of, you'd think you'd be like, your mom would be like, oh, that's so cool, congrats or something. But
yeah,
she was like, why are you asking them to pay you for a drawing? That's almost embarrassing. And
yeah,
that put me off a little bit. But at that point, I was like, I'm making money. Support is leagues important. Like I think having self doubt and doubt from your family or I guess even your friends can be super off putting, and it's a shame that it gets rid of or like extinguishes so many ambition because you never know. If you put it off and then years from now you're like, well, what if I did continue doing it anyway?
I think evidence supports this idea. I think the reason why maybe like you and I's parents might think it's like like embarrassing or strange. I don't think creative jobs like exist in the Philippines because the last time I was there,
Yeah.
um, I was 24, 25 at the time, and my extended family, all the cousins and uncles and stuff, they were all asking like what I did because they all assumed at this point I'd have like a career, and
Hmm.
I was just like, at the time I just had like a retail job. When they wanted to know more about me or what I wanted to do, I always told them, I told everybody that I wanted to pursue art. I wanted to be an artist. And 100% of the time, every single person thought I meant an architect. And
Oh,
none of them could even fathom the idea of like having a job where you make art creatively. They all thought it was like drawing to design a building.
it's crazy because you go on places, you go on like Twitter,
Mhm.
and there's so many insanely skilled Filipino artists.
Yeah.
I'm
And
like, whoa.
I mean, it's also one of those things where it's like, I mean, the Philippines, if you're in Manila, it's a lot different than if you're like in a village.
Yeah,
They're kind of
that's
like
true.
different worlds, even though it's the same nation. My family isn't really part of part of a world that I would consider a little bit more modern. Because I mean, there are professional cosplayers and like Twitter artists in the Philippines, but my family probably just doesn't know about them.
Yeah, they're probably the same with my family.
When you were
I don't
doing
think they ever thought I would be an architect. I mean, like I don't think when I asked them or told them that I do artwork, I don't. They never mentioned to me. Well, they probably thought I did architecture, but they never brought it up.
I was about to ask if you had that miscommunication too, but since you weren't saying anything, I was like, they probably didn't think that, or they just didn't tell her.
Yeah.
When you first did your commissions, I'm assuming this was like since you had a DeviantArt, I'm assuming you were like in your adolescence. Were you doing digital art at that time, or was it like traditional art?
Oh no, it was traditional. Man, my commissions back then were bad.
Okay, okay,
They
so
were
this
real
is
bad.
okay. So we're talking old
Yeah,
school DeviantArt user bad art, but you had a platform,
it
so you
was real
used
bad.
it.
Like yeah, like I didn't even have like a scanner to scan my drawings. I just took a picture of it on my phone and then cropped it on like MS Paint. I
uh,
know it was that. Yup.
I had my friend at school take my drawings home with him and use his scanner because I didn't have one myself.
Oh my god. Wow. That's like the amount of trust.
I know.
Impressive.
And then I finally got
Uh,
my own, and it was like such a big deal that I had a scanner. So when did you start doing
I
traditional?
think
I mean, wait, when did you? Oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna be like, I think the reason what I think subconsciously the reason one of the reasons why I went digital is because I'm like I don't need to scan anything anymore. I just have to draw it and then it's done.
I went digital because I can't afford art supplies.
Oh yeah, oh my god. In college, my friends who are taking like who are like illustration majors,
Hmm.
they have like their backpacks are full of like all these different kinds of pencils and watercolors and stuff like that. And then I just have my laptop and charger and my
Yep.
tablet in my backpack.
And
Yup.
while I do, because I do love traditional art, I've done a little bit of it, and I like watercolor actually. I mean, albeit that's out of my style,
Yeah.
but I don't know, it's just so much easier to be a digital artist if I'm being honest. Because even though some devices cost hundreds of dollars, it's only the one time you pay for it.
hmm And then like maybe replace if you have to upgrade your computer or whatever. But
Yeah,
yeah, I totally understand because I love watercolor, and I think if I were to go into a traditional medium, I'd choose watercolor also. It's so
yeah.
pretty, but digital is the way to go for me at
Because
least.
I had a friend who almost always did traditional art, and they were super talented. Like probably one of the best artists that I know. But like, well, their family was wealthy, so they could afford this. But I remember every time I hung out with them, they would want to like go to the store and buy art supplies with me and like just kind of like have art sessions. And I'd always be like, "Ah, dude, I can't afford, I can't keep up with this money wise." And like these expensive pens that look really nice are gonna run out of ink very fast. And I'm like, oh, I can't keep doing this.
hmm
But also, like, I think digital art, depending on what you're going for, looks more clean. And I because for me, because I dreamed of like making my own cartoon when I was little, but also because of my just sheer love of anime, I always want to do like I want to do like a Western cartoon anime inspired style. And I think I think doing digital art is makes it's easier to achieve that look.
Yeah, it's all in sense of making it easier on yourself.
When did you start using digital art?
Well, I think I got my tablet. I asked it for Christmas, like when I was younger, but I don't think I actually started using it until I was a sophomore in high school, only because I was dumb and I didn't realize I had to download a tablet to work. But yeah, I think I'd say sophomore year high school, I think is when I started
And then
around
you got
the
that
time.
for Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was gonna ask how when you started, how you afforded your equipment.
Oh yeah, it was like well, I don't know how much it is. It was like it's like a dinosaur bamboo tablet. But I got the job done. Since then right now I just I pay for it now. So
Yeah, that makes sense. I have so many like I've been cleaning out all my old stuff, and I found like three bamboo tablets, and I was like, oh, this takes me back. But I was also I drew with a mouse for 5 years, and that was rough.
oh yeah, I did that too. I used to draw a ton of drawings on MS Paint, and then yeah, like MS Paint. And when I used the tablet and I couldn't get the pen pressure to work because I didn't install the driver and I thought it was just my tablet being weird.
Hmm.
I would like draw the strokes out with like the weird like go in with the eraser and then make the lines different. So much time, and it was like it's a mess, but I did it.
Yeah, I remember the first time I used one. Someone who I met recently who asked me a lot of advice for art. Um, he and well, I guess a lot of people I know actually, they have trouble looking in a different direction than where their hand is moving when they draw because there's like that disconnect and you have to retrain your brain. Do you ever have a problem with that?
Yeah, when I first started using my tablet, there was definitely like maybe a week to a month where I had to get used to not to looking at my hand and also looking at the screen. It was definitely difficult for a time, but if you keep like drawing and you keep practicing, you'll get used to it. At a point, you don't even need to look down at your hand anymore.
Yeah, because for me, do you think it would be easier if you got like a Cintiq or used an Apple Pencil and you were looking where your hand was again?
I actually have a Cintiq, but
Oh, you do?
I decided I do, yeah, but I decided not to use it until I get my own, like a proper desktop and a workspace for myself.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because right now I live with my family, and the only workspace I'm constrained to is my own room, and the Cintiq's a little too clunky for that. But for the time where I did work with the Cintiq, it was definitely easier because you could see your hand and where your brushstrokes are. There's definitely the more ease to drawing when it comes to that, but Cintiqs are pricey.
Oh yeah, they are. I remember. I wish I could remember how much. So one time I was between jobs and my friends contacted me because they knew somebody who was selling a Cintiq for like dirt cheap. It was like $50 or something.
Holy crap!
I know, dude. This is one of the biggest regrets of my life. I think I might have. So it was like a dirt cheap Cintiq. And they were just trying to get rid of it for some reason. I didn't know the person. I don't know the backstory. It was a friend of a friend. And I feel like the person who told me did not understand how big of a deal that was because they didn't understand. Because I was between jobs, so I had no money. And I was like, I don't even have $50. This is like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And then I didn't buy it because I couldn't. I know.
Oh, sorry. This is PG. I don't... Dang.
Yeah. No. You could swear. I mean, I don't know if Twitch will have an issue with that. But when I do the YouTube edit, I'll just censor it.
Dang. I said dang.
Dude, it's just I hate it so much. I hate that happened to me. But because I was gonna say, with me, when I was using a bamboo tablet, it was so hard to like make that disconnect that like I'm looking up at the screen, but my hand is drawing down on this pad, and when I switched over to using an Apple Pencil on an iPad, it felt like I just like took my training weights off because like suddenly everything clicked and like I was my drawing ability like got just dramatically better because I was able to comfortably like draw the way I wanted. And
right.
I remember the first time you were talking about the pressure sensitivity. When I first used a bamboo, I was like, oh, I can't do this. It's too weird to look up and draw downwards. So I was looking at the tablet, or I was looking at the bamboo, and then I looked up and it was just a bunch of really thick lines because I didn't understand the pressure.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Do you have anything you want to plug or anything else you want to tell the audience for the YouTube edit of this?
Follow me on Twitter. It's at...
Hey guys, the audio cut out at like the worst feasible moment, but her Twitter is at Charburst_.
Because Charburst is already taken by someone who isn't even active anymore. Hate it when that happens. And also check out the game that I'm working on with some people called Tablecraft at playtablecraft.com. It's a really cool VR game. There's a lot of science, and we're gonna make it fun. It's gonna be a good time.
There is an Instagram that it's SOOSHY, like my alias, spelled SOOSHY, that is completely blank and has 0 posts and 3 followers and is following 0 people. And I'm like, this account with my name is just taking up internet dust.
Yeah.
I looked into it and it's like, oh yeah, Instagram won't help you like get a handle from an inactive account, and it makes me so upset.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Same with Twitter. There's, like, literally, I'm looking at it right now on my laptop, and they're only following like 1 person, and they haven't tweeted. And they joined 2009. They're just sitting there.
What I will say is, if that account is not active, if you get a copyright on your username, you can buy it. I don't know how much money that costs, and I don't know your availability to put a copyright on your username, but it's possible. I know for a fact it's possible on Twitter.
Interesting, and it just doesn't work with Instagram.
From what I did with my research, Instagram support team just won't help you.
Wow, that's lame.
I know. I even.
But I'll look into maybe one of these.
I even DM'd that account hoping that somebody would get the notification and see that I was asking for the name.
please give it back. I would like to have it.
Well, not give it back. They technically had it before me.
Can I please take it?
But yeah, with that, once again, thank you so much for like agreeing to do this. I'm like really glad that that like you wanted to.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Thanks for having me. It was like I guess it's an honor. Honestly, I
Oh,
like I said, I want to be approachable.
awesome.
I don't want people to be shy.
Thank you everybody for watching. I still don't know how to end these, so I'm just going to do it.